Hello again and welcome to another Warhammer 40K Imperial Guard Tactics video. So today's video I'm going to be talking about Militarum Tempestus, the stormtroopers of the Imperial Guard. If you're one of the sort of old bloods like me who remembers them as being stormtroopers, yeah, I actually quite like the name Tempestus Scions, but to me they're still, they're stormies, they're stormtroopers. Yeah, I really like these guys. I like the whole sort of special forces, ODST sort of vibe that you get with them. I really like the fact that you can take whole armies of them now, because sometimes when you're playing Imperial Guard versus other more elite factions, it feels a bit strange. Like you've turned up with an army and they've turned up with an elite force, and it doesn't always quite cinematically work out, but sometimes it's really cool when you have these two elite forces going at each other, these special forces, skirmishing it on patrol or surgical strike, or it's cool. It does sort of cool. It does sort of work. But anyway, I'm a big fan of Militarum Tempestus. I have quite a few of them, and I've had a game recently which has really made me want to try out a full 2,000 point army of them. Which is, kind of hard to do because these guys aren't cheap, money-wise. They're 20, I think it's £20 or £25 for just 5 of them, so they're pretty expensive. But they're good. I mean, you buy the start collecting box set, it's not too bad. But what I want to sort of specifically, what's prompted this video is I had a game on yesterday, if I'm uploading this video on the Wednesday, and I had a game, and it was my Black Templars and my Tempestus Scions, and what basically happened was I used about 1,300 points of Templars and about 700 points of Scions because I needed to boost my way up to 2,000 points, because I don't quite have 2,000 points I don't know how, I've got about 1,500 points of Black Templars fully painted, but just in terms of detachments where the army worked out, it just worked out better to have 700 of Scions, 1,300 of Templars. And my Templars did their thing. I was playing against Admech. My Templars sort of did their thing where they charged out and they cut down like 20 Rust or 20 infiltrators, Admech infiltrators, and then they just got obliterated because they were in close range of the Admech guns. But whilst the opponent was busy dealing with my Black Templars running up to him, I had 3 squads of Scions, 2 on one flank, 1 on the other flank, and they just sort of worked their way across the line. And they did a huge amount of heavy lifting, and it really made me fall in love with my Scions again, which is great because I don't need to really go out and buy any more models at the moment. I can use my roughly 1,000 points of Scions as is, and that's great. It's made me really go like, first thing on top of every one of my list is going to be Scions. So they really added that extra sort of punch to my Templars, which was nice. But what really sort of jumped out at me was the getting extra shots in half range. So for those of you that don't know, the Militarum Tempestus regimental doctrine is called Stormtroopers. And it's very simple. Any Militarum Tempestus unit, aka Scion Command Squads, regular Scion Squads, Tempestus Primes and Taurox Primes, any of those units which are within half range, if they roll a 6 to hit, you get to fire another shot, which is fantastic. So what I was noticing was I was dropping down and my plasma guns would always be in half range, and I would order the plasma guns reroll 1s to hit with the order, and then I would overcharge them, and then typically from sort of 2 plasma guns in rapid fire range, I would end up getting 5 or 6 shots regularly, because any of my misses would generally be 1s, and then I get to reroll those, and quite often those actually turn to 6s. So I was always getting 5. I noticed with every plasma burst I was getting 1 to 2 extra plasma shots, which was like getting a plasma pistol for free on the squad, which was really cool, and I really liked that combination. And a couple of times, because even with real ones to hit, occasionally a plasma will kill themselves. once or twice I actually got into 9-inch range with the hotshot las guns and ordered first rank fire, second rank fire, 4 shots each per guy, and then there's loads of extra 6s going there, so I was getting loads of extra shots. So I really found that it worked really well with the plasma, and it worked really well with the hotshot las guns. Now I was thinking how I've been using my Tempestus Scions is getting you in the enemy's face, get within 12 inches, get within 9 inches so those las guns can start doing some work, and get those 6s. That's how I've been using them. But I sort of had a revelation. Because the reason I've been using them like that is because the majority of my weaponry has got 24-inch range, which means I want to be within 12 inches to get my extra shots. But what sort of jumped out at me, and this came into my head because I was thinking, how am I going to take my 1,000 points of Tempestus Scions, which are currently specialised in close range pinpoint firefights? How can I add another 1,000 points on and sort of provide myself with some sort of longer range fire support? And then something sort of hit me. The Taurox Prime can be taken with a missile launcher and 2 autocannons. Now, those weapons have got a 48-inch range, which means they wouldn't need to get particularly close to my opponent to be able to get extra shots on 6s. In fact, their half range would be 24-inch range, which means that's quite a distance. And getting, if you have 3 of these trucks with these rocket launchers, for example, it's not out of the realms of possibility with a bit of luck on your side to get 1 to 2 extra missiles a turn. And especially if you've got the autocannons as well, that's 4 autocannon shots. You're looking at, again, 2 to 3 extra autocannon shots a turn. And that's from 24-inch range. And so what I was thinking is it would be perfectly possible to make a Militarum Tempestus gun line of sorts. Because I've been thinking of how am I going to get my volley guns to work as well, my hotshot volley guns, because I've tried dropping them in or jumping them out of vehicles, and what I tend to find happens is they only hit on 4s when they move, so they really struggle. So what I thought was, if I was to take 2,000 points of Scions, and I was going to have half of them dropping in, and then have the other half of my units as sort of like a small gun line, or some sort of gun line. How I would do it is I would have a mixture of Dakar Tauroxes and Punchy Primes, and then I would have loads of Scion squads with volley guns. That's how I would do it. So I would have then I'd have all my plasma dropping in, because my plasma wants to be in rapid fire range, so it can get the extra shots and can get double shots for being rapid fire. But so they're going to be dropping in, and then obviously the Dakar Primes with the Gatling cannon and the volley guns, they're going to be getting in close so that they can use they're going to sort of be getting it within 24-inch range or 12-inch range so they can get some extra shots. So that's what's going to be in my opponent's face. But Scions typically sort of struggle to hold ground. They struggle to... They can struggle to keep up the momentum. And I thought one way of doing that would be, whilst your opponent is so busy with dealing with your drop-in units, you could have these Taurox, these Punchy Primes, backed up by hotshot volley gun squads at a nice 24-inch range bracket. So that's not too close, not too far away. Allows you to be able to put a lot of firepower down on the enemy. And I was thinking that could produce a hell of a lot of shots. I mean, if we're talking about having, let's say, 2 battalions sorting this out, and you've got 1,000 points of Scions dropping in, which is going to be something like probably get 3 regular squads a couple of commanders and a couple of command squads, and that would probably be. Well, you could probably take three. You could probably take three of each: 3 command squads, 3 regular squads, and 3 commanders. And that would probably, with all the guns and take big 10-man squads and stuff for the extra firepower, you could definitely, get yourself 1,000 points there. Then 1,000 points of long range scions could be sort of 4 or 5 of those punchy primes backed up by multiple units, just spamming as many hotshot volley guns as you've got, because any hotshot volley guns can stay still at 24-inch range, and you're looking at, from a command squad, 16 shots. That's not bad at all. And so the punchy primes would provide the long-range anti-tank of the army, and the Dakar primes and the Dakar primes and the volley gun squads could provide the anti-infantry. And so by the time the enemy is cleaned up your sort of 30, 40 styles that you've dropped in amongst him, your Militarum Tempestus could, your shooting units, long-range shooting units, could do a lot more damage and sit on the objectives. Now, I don't know how effective it would be. Maybe that's sort of one approach I was thinking about this, but I'm not sure, like I said, how effective it would be, because it's sort of trying to make the punchy prime work. That's kind of what I'm trying to get here. How can we make the punchy prime work? So at the moment, the Dakar prime is so much better. The second way, I was thinking of maybe running pure Militarum Tempestus. This is just a sort of amusing video, guys, because you don't see many pure Militarum Tempestus armies out there because they lack unit options. But with the way 8th edition works, it would be possible to take double battalion. The second way I can see of making them work is to have a battalion and you drop down as much plasma as possible. I'm not kidding. I'm talking 3 commanders, 3 command squads all with plasmas, and then like 6 5-man squads with plasma. You don't really want that though, do you? Because you want to be able, you want to take a lot of squads. Okay, but if you took, for example, something like that, the second wave, what you'd want to do is you'd want to try and keep the momentum. We've talked about this with the scions before, where you would take in your second battalion as many Dakar primes as you could, and you would fill them up with as many scions as you could, and you'd probably just take riflemen. I know that sounds crazy, but you'd probably just take a load of riflemen. And the point of the army would be to the first wave drops in and does a horrendous amount of damage to your opponent, and the second wave drives up as fast as possible, and by the time your opponent's dealt with the first wave, the second wave, hopefully you've got rid of all his transports and stuff with all your plasma. So the point of the second wave would be to drive in there and with horrendous levels of firepower, just Dakar everything to death. Take advantage of AP -2. Now you could put loads of plasma guns on your second wave if you wanted to. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. But I was just thinking in sort of keeping them cheap. So I'm not sure how I would, like I said, I'm not sure which of these 2 methods is the most effective. This is just videos been brought on, musings from noticing how effective my my scions were. Now, one way you could do this is, obviously, you could have all your infantry up in the sky. Third possibility, I should say, is have all your infantry up in the sky and take as many primes down on the ground. So if you took like 10 Dakar primes, that's 1,000 points. Then you could take 10 squads that could go in the sky, and then you could, which admittedly probably comes about 1,000, roughly 1,000 points anyway. And then you could have 10 Torx primes driving up the field, and about 80 scions dropping down. The reason I'm not 100% happy with the third tactic is because you're dropping all your infantry down means that when they're all dead, which inevitably they will all die, you suddenly lose all your obsec, you suddenly lose all your boots on the ground, and yes, you've got a lot of Torx Primes running around, but one, Torx Primes aren't that durable, and two, especially Dakka Primes, they've not got a lot of anti-tank, so if your anti-tank has failed, then you're in trouble. And three, the enemy can easily outnumber you in objectives, so it wouldn't be as good. I think the best way is the second way. The first tactic was trying to take a wave dropping in, and then a wave of second sort of long range shooty of 24-inch range gun line with all the volley guns and all the punchy primes. I think that could work. I think that has potential. The only limiting factor would be the fact that the Torx Prime with missile launcher and autocannons is very expensive. It's almost the same as a Lehman Russ or something crazy. And you're only getting 6 shots out of it. So, make of that what you will. So I think the first way has potential though, because it would allow you to entrench and dig your way in. Dig yourself in. And, once the enemy has dealt with your initial wave, they've got to try and dig out a bunch of Scions, which have got to have a 3+ save being in cover and have a hell of a lot of firepower. So I think that could work. The second way I think is the most powerful, because we've talked about it before, Scions need the momentum. Scions, so what you'd have there is you'd have a load of plasma dropping down, and then you'd have a second wave, all of as much firepower as you can put out, possibly more plasma guns, and your second wave would drive up and jump out. And the reason why I think that's more flexible is by putting some units in your Torx Primes, it means you can get some obsec. You've got some sort of fast moves, because the problem with units that drop down is often they've got to drop down not necessarily on objectives, they've got to kill enemy units. Whereas having units, and once they drop down, they're very slow, they can't really maneuver. You've got 6-inch movement. Having units in Torx Primes means you can drive forward, shoot something, and then jump back in the vehicle and drive somewhere else really quickly. So I think that's probably the best one. I think the third tactic, I just don't think it would work as well. Definitely think the second tactic's the best one. So what do you guys think? Do you think you want to have that sort of secondary gun line of volley guns and missile launchers, or do you think it would be best just to keep the momentum at all costs? I think keeping the momentum would be better. That's the Scion way. I know a lot of people will be saying, well, just take infantry squads if you want to take a gun line. Just take regular guard if you want to take a gun line. Yeah, that's true, but this is sort of how would you make a pure Militarum Tempestus army work? I've given you my 3 ideas. What would you do? Is it possible to have a pure Militarum Tempestus army? I think it is. I think it very much is. You could definitely, put it this way. A pure Militarum Tempestus army is going to have something like 100 stormtroopers in it and 6 or 7 Torx Primes. Roughly those numbers. That's really powerful. 80 to 100 stormtroopers and 5 to 8 Torx Primes is very powerful. Really powerful. So tell me what you guys think. Any pure Militarum Tempestus players out there, how have you managed to get your army to work? Okay, so I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.